Creation is a gift from God, and we have a duty to care for it. This would be true even if there was not an environmental crisis. Pope Francis reminds us that our bodies are made up of the elements of the earth and that we breathe and drink the products of the earth. In other words, we have a relationship with the earth which is intrinsic. We should cherish and nurture the earth and not plunder it violently. The different creatures of the earth are not merely resources to be exploited. They have value in themselves because they are God's created creatures. Of course, they have a lesser value than that of a human person, but they have value. And so a rightly ordered Christian life would treat the earth, the natural environment, and other creatures with respect. As Pope Francis has said, we grow more, mature more, and are sanctified more to the extent that we enter into relationships, going out from ourselves to live in communion with God, with others, and with all creatures. Quoting St. Thomas Aquinas, Pope Francis notes that it was through the intention of the Creator that the whole variety that we see in the creatures of the earth came about. St. Thomas Aquinas wisely noted that multiplicity and variety come from the intention of the first agent who willed that what was wanting to one in the representation of the divine goodness might be supplied by another, inasmuch as God's goodness could not be represented fittingly by any one creature. Hence, we need to grasp the variety of things in their multiple relationships. We understand better the importance and meaning of each creature if we contemplate it within the entirety of God's plan. So our duty to respect creation is not in doubt, and the Church has been reminding us for more than 50 years that there is a particular urgency to care for the natural environment in the modern age. And Pope Francis has stressed the urgency time and time again and called upon political leaders to act. But the Church also reminds us that the results of environmental crises are linked with how we live our lives and how we view our lives. John Paul II wrote, "Equally worrying is the ecological question which accompanies the problem of consumerism and which is closely connected to it. In his desire to have and to enjoy rather than to be and to grow, man consumes the resources of the earth and his own life in an excessive and disordered way." Our personal responsibility to care for creation is often downplayed, but fulfilling that responsibility is not only important for our own sanctification, it has social effects in promoting the common good too. Pope Francis referred to this in the Laudate Si when he wrote, "We must not think that these efforts are not going to change the world. They benefit society, often unbeknown to us. They call forth a goodness which, albeit unseen, inevitably tends to spread. Furthermore, such actions can restore our sense of self-esteem. They can enable us to live more fully and to feel that life on earth is worthwhile. Indeed, we can think of environmental challenges as matters of intergenerational justice. What right have we to consume in such a way that it damages the prospects for future generations?" Again, as Pope Francis wrote, "We can no longer speak of sustainable development apart from intergenerational solidarity." Once we start to think about the kind of world we are leaving to future generations, we look at things differently. Intergenerational solidarity is not optional, but rather a basic question of justice, since the world we have received also belongs to those who will follow us. Resolving environmental problems must go beyond personal conversion and individual responsibility given the global and intergenerational dimensions of the challenges. The promotion of the common good in this area requires political action to protect our common home, including international political action. People differ on the best approaches when it comes to deciding how politicians should respond. Not every proposed way of reducing carbon emissions, for example, is prudent. And again, as Pope Francis has said, solutions are often proposed which benefit commercial and political interests rather than effectively promoting the change that we need. And we should not fall prey to the technological paradigm whereby we assume that technology will rescue us, solving one problem at a time, whilst we do nothing about our lifestyles. The Church supports international cooperation. Nations must work together in order to address environmental problems. We must not forget this at this time of heightened international tensions. And though the Church states clearly that there are limits to private property when it comes to environmental goods, there are many environmental problems that can be addressed by promoting better governance, ensuring that those who use environmental resources pay for them, and the better promotion and protection of property rights. In many highly forested countries, the vast majority of deforestation is caused by illegal activity. And as Pope Francis wrote in his encyclical Fratelli Tutti, everyone loves and cares for his or her native land and village, just as they love and care for their home and are personally responsible for its upkeep. The common good likewise requires that we protect and love our native land. Otherwise, the consequences of a disaster in one country will end up affecting the entire planet. All this brings out the positive meaning of the right to property. I care for and cultivate something that I possess in such a way that it can contribute to the good of all. The urgency of environmental crises and their complexity mean that Catholics in public life must take them very seriously. We need to recognize the interconnection of different disciplines, economics, moral theology, politics, and environmental sciences to come to a prudent judgment about how we care for God's creation.